Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Toot or Boot. Today, joining us is Noah Warder. Noah, tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Stacy. Super stoked to be here. VP of People and Culture over at Accent Inns and Hotel Z. We're a 8 property hotel chain up here in Canada with one restaurant, and one restaurant is as complicated as many tech companies that are 5 times their size. So I get to work with lots of fun things. But yeah, I love HR, I love people and culture, I love talent acquisition, I love it all. And I've been doing it for about 11 years now. Started in restaurants, then went into tech. Now I'm back in hotels. So I'm kind of done a little 180 and I'm excited to be back in my original sort of industry.
Fabulous, full circle. So, you're bringing a bunch of different perspectives, and that is one of the things I love about bringing people into the show. It's because I know they all have these different perspectives that they're able to bring. And I'm interested, given that we're going to start off with one that has gotten some buzz recently, and that is why Silicon Valley is a buzz over founder mode. If any of you haven't read this, this is from Paul Graham talking about how founders can be running either in founder mode or manager mode and kind of explaining what the differences are and seemingly advocating for founder mode. Uh, Noah, what did you think?
I think it's a crock shit. I think there's very few people in the world who can run a company successfully in founder mode. I love how they're touting people like Steve Jobs and I don't remember his name, the founder of Airbnb. But even those people brought in experts to rely on. Like Airbnb used to always tout, was it Chip what is that? Chip
Conley, yeah.
Conley? Like he came in and helped them extensively with their early days and getting them going and doing all this stuff. It's I don't know, it's like these founders get lionized because they're now successful, but we don't talk about any of the people that got them to success. Um,
Yeah.
and like even in Apple, like you had like Steve, he's the one that actually designed the computer, or not Steve, sorry. What was Steve Jobs' partner's name?
Oh, Steve Wozniak?
Wozniak, yeah, the other Steve.
The other Steve. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Steve Jobs would have had nothing without him. So like I don't know. It's just all this like lionizing of yeah, what seems like white men in Silicon Valley and how they're like the sole person that made that company successful, which is again such a crock of shit. It's
Yeah.
like,
It,
yeah.
I mean, it's a massive boot for me as well because first, exactly to your point. It's like this founder worship that exists in Silicon Valley, the like, worship of the boy genius, kind of thing. And like it's just so bizarre to me. And I think, you get this thing where you throw out a few names that like, well, these three people who are very successful, this is how they ran their company, which, okay, may or may not be true. But how are, tell me about the other 10,000 founders that tried to run their companies that way and tanked it. You know what I mean? Like, where are all their names in this list? Because I think that, obviously you get people excited when you say these three names that have been very successful. Meanwhile, there are so many more who probably did a terrible job thinking that they could run it in that way. And to your point, they don't have the expertise. Like a founder can't and shouldn't be an expert in every single part of the business. And that's why they get people who are to help them run the business. Like it's
Yeah.
just, I kind of,
It
the whole founder worship thing is like a bit much for me.
there's a couple things that like as a parent it makes me think of like no, there's those parents who have kids who can do no wrong and are like my little boy Jimmy is amazing at everything, and then as the other parent you look at Jimmy and you're like Jimmy's a bit of a dumbass or Jimmy's
Jimmy
amazing.
sucks.
Yeah, I don't want my kid hanging out with Jimmy. That's a bit what it feels like. And then the other part of it is like it's like you said, it's this founder glorification, and it's like let's all prop these 3 or 4 people up who did it, and like you said, like what about the tens of thousands that didn't do it, or where are all the founders who more are more like the non-exceptions to the rule who ran a company in manager mode very successfully. Because I bet there's
Yeah.
more of those companies out there, and
Yeah.
maybe they're not as flashy as Airbnb and Apple, but I'm sure if you look at the S&P 500, most of those companies run in manager mode and they do it really well. And
Yeah.
I would pose to Airbnb founder, maybe you have a hiring problem, not a manager problem.
Yeah, so okay, this is exactly, I pulled this quote out because exactly that. So what Paul Graham said in his post, hire good people and give them room to do their jobs. Sounds great when it's described that way, doesn't it? Except in practice, judging from the report of founder after founder, what this often turns out to mean is hire professional fakers and let them drive the company into the ground. Um, I read that and I was like, tell me you don't listen to your HR team without telling me you don't listen to your HR
Or
team.
you don't have one.
Or you don't have one, right?
Yeah.
Or you don't like respect the HR or whatever. Because like if that is what you're hearing from founder after founder, to your point, they have a hiring problem. Like they are not creating scorecards and criteria for the candidates. Like they're just pulling somebody from their network that they heard from so and so. Like you have a hiring problem if that is your experience, that you keep hiring people who drive a company into the ground.
Fakers, because if you have a robust interview process, you'll weed out 99% of the fakers. Every now and then one will get through for sure. There's
Yeah.
some really good ones out there, but you'll figure that out in 3 months if you have a good like hiring process and then a good onboarding process. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's a big old boot. It's a big old boot.
It is yeah, a massive boot. All right, we'll move on to our next one here, which is Starbucks is giving its new CEO, Brian Niccol, a private jet to commute between his California home and Seattle office. The title kind of explains it all there. What did you think of that, Noah?
Yeah, the title really didn't leave a lot of room for interpretation. He gets a private jet to fly around to offices, whereas Starbucks employees have been told that they have to come in 3 days a week,
Yeah, yeah.
and if they live close by, and then I think if they live really close by, it's 5 days a week, isn't it? Like they're really pushing the return to office.
Mm.
And then there's the other things here of like Starbucks is trying to like really lean into the climate activism part of their business. And it's like
Yeah.
private jet flying all over the country and probably the world as they visit some of their international stuff. It's like is business class not good enough for this guy?
Yeah.
Like he needs his own private jet? Like, come on. Talk about like glorifying executives. Like, oh, it's just and then they're like, why are our Starbucks employees unionizing? I wonder why when you're spending how many millions of dollars on this jet in this person's package, but you refuse to give these employees a bit of a raise or better benefits or do all of the things that Starbucks used to do.
Yeah.
And like it's like, yeah, no shit, you got a unionization problem. Like
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
CEO should have a private jet.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly. Like it's interesting to me, and this is always for me where like whenever there is kind of a dissonance, people are going to pick up on that. So when you say like, "Oh, we can't give you these raises. We can't do this. We can't, we're focused on the climate and we're pushing forward environmental initiatives." And then you do something that is just complete opposite of that, like it's going to draw the attention of people. And I understand, I mean, I don't know how often the CEO is walking into Starbucks stores, which is, I guess, part of the reason they say that he needs this. I get that he would be traveling often. But to your point, like you can't just hop on a commercial airline. Like commercial airlines aren't flying in and out of California and Seattle. Like, what are we talking about here? Um, Also, like are you not delegating some of this? You don't have people who can do some of those in-store checks if that's what you're doing, which I don't even know if I believe that's what's happening. Um, yeah, it just, and again, like that contradiction of you have to return to office, but I'm going to be working from my California home. Um, is also kind of uh, creates that, you know, two different levels of experience, right?
Yeah, or it's like I could almost see the other side of like, well, I'm returning to the office too. It's like, yeah, but you're flying on a private jet, dude. You're not driving your Honda Civic down the I-9 stuck in traffic for 3 hours. Like it's a little bit different when you're rolling through on your private jet, and it's yeah, like you said, that dissonance, that like, what is going on here? And it almost feels like a power play a little bit, where
Mhm.
this, this person helped turn Chipotle around, right? I think that's his big thing is like he turned
Yeah.
Chipotle around, and it was like maybe it was just like, you know what? Give me a private jet. Like in that negotiation of like, yeah, everything's all good, but you know what'd be really sweet and with cherry on top? Give me a private jet. And I'll come on, come on over. I've always wanted my own jet. Like,
I mean, it would be an interesting flex, but yeah, it is again kind of this very like putting founders, putting CEOs on pedestals. And what does that look like to, especially if you're thinking about, you know, like salary, the differential between like uh other people's pay and like CEO pay and the benefits and perks and stuff they get and like what the ratio is there. It just starts to get like, okay, what are we doing?
mhm. Yeah, well, and it just shows that like again, they're not bringing this person in to create a better culture for their employees. They're bringing this person in to create shareholder value. That's
Oh yeah.
that's what that says. It's not like you're not bringing in the CEO who's going to put the team first and the people first and do all the things that, you know, CEOs are supposed to do to turn a company around. They're bringing somebody in who's going to create shareholder value and profit, and
Yeah.
that's what he's there for.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay. Speaking of which, let us keep moving on. We're on to this next one. Who dreams this crap up? Kevin O'Leary slams new rule that allows employees to ignore their bosses after hours. So this is he is on Shark Tank. This is his reaction to the right to disconnect laws. Um, what were your thoughts on this one?
Kevin O'Leary he's an interesting fella. Like, like this is a man who what is it, Mr. Fantastic, isn't that his nickname? And I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago, he was in a boat accident up here in Canada because he's Canadian, he's from here,
Oh,
and they like they're drinking and got a little saucy on the lake and caused a huge accident, and I think somebody died.
oh
Like,
no.
yeah, so this is coming from this guy. But
Mhm.
it's again, it's just it is these owners and these investors, and again, they don't care about people. They just want to know how much they can squeeze out of people to make a dollar. Like that's what he's saying. I don't care if you're at home with your family or your friends or you need time off. You need to respond to me and
Yeah,
my companies and your bosses to get the job done. And like I can kind of see that when you're in your like early 20s and you're kind of that's what you want. You want to grind really hard for a few years and learn a lot and sure, whatever. But that doesn't work for a lot of people. That doesn't work for me. Like if
mm,
someone's calling me at 8 p.m. unless it's like an absolute emergency, I'm ignoring that.
yeah,
And we talk a lot about that in companies of like, does someone really need to respond to you at 7 p.m. at night, or can they respond the next day at 9 a.m. when they should be in the office or working? It's
yeah,
like it's this demand for attention. And again, it goes back to this like I think fragile ego of white guys that like it's like you got to look at me. You got to lionize me. I'm the one that creates the value and I'm the one that made the business successful. Like if you look at all three of these articles, they all have something in common where it's like white dudes talking about how great them and other white dudes are, or pay attention to me because if you don't, I'll fire you, even if you're not being paid for that attention. Like
what
they're
about
all
me
doing the
and
same
my
thing.
needs?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was reading this as well, you know, he's like, okay, well, you can't be ignoring my calls and waiting until the next day, you know, to address emergencies. And I'm like, how how often are you having emergencies? You know what I mean? Like if you're running your business in a way where things are like, need immediate attention on a frequent basis, like truly I have to kind of ask like, what is it that you are doing? Because not everything can be an emergency, right? Like I know that we tend to operate in this state of like urgency, especially in the US. Like that's definitely the culture there is like availability, urgency, everything's like a a fire, but truly like I mean for most occupations obviously some people do have emergencies, but like for very many occupations and very likely the businesses that he's running, uh, not everything is an emergency.
Exactly.
So, and so to your point, it's like, I just want you to respond to me immediately. That's what I want. And that's what it's about.
Well, and I think to your point, that like we talked about this with the Airbnb article of like, shouldn't there be process for this? Like, usually there's people who are on call, and there's specific people who are on call, and they usually get paid to be on call.
Right.
So contact those people who are on call, whose job it is to respond to emergencies after hours. Like, why are you bugging the people who aren't supposed to be on call? Or maybe you haven't relied on your HR team to create an on-call program and policy and compensation for your teams. You're just expecting everyone to be on call at all times.
Yeah.
And then like and then same bosses will then complain about employee burnout and how everyone's taking too much time off and all this other snowflake BS bullshit conversation. It's like, well, yeah, if you're bugging 24/7, of course they're gonna get burnt out and need time off.
Right. Yeah. If I have no actual time away, that is my personal time. And I think the response in here was from because of a law that Australia recently passed. And so there was a quote from Australia's Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations, Murray Watt, saying it should not be controversial that workers shouldn't be required to do unpaid overtime.
I love
Right.
it. It's
Which is
great.
really, like that's exact. And I was like, winner, winner, chicken dinner. Like, yes, that is the exact thing is that employers want employees to work for free and to have like full access to their time. I think that's what a lot of the pushback we see in many things these days with, all the different trends, which I hate to mention, but like quiet quitting and, all of that kind of stuff is people just being like, no, I unsubscribe. Like I'm not doing that anymore.
I get paid for 40 hours a week. I'm going to work 40 hours a week. And if you
Yeah.
need me to work more than that, then we can talk about a pay adjustment. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Or we can
Yeah.
talk
I mean,
about
my brother's,
being paid to be on call, right? Like as you mentioned.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, my brother's living in Australia, and he says their relationship with work is very different than it is here in North America. It's very much a like, people don't live to work, they work to live. Like, work is just to finance their life. It's not the other way around, which I find it is a lot in North America where people live to work. It's their identity, it's their
Yeah.
whole being, and all these things. And I think a lot of executives and founders and companies take advantage of that a lot. Like, they really
Yeah.
take advantage of that identity that we've been fed that like you have to live to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. So I want to give us perhaps a little bit of a palate cleanser and go to this article, How to Build Social Activism into Your Governance Structure. And so really this is someone who's talking about, hey, you don't have to retreat from activism. You don't have to say, okay, you're avoiding, quote unquote politics in the workplace. There's a way to do this that is values aligned. What did you think of it?
I loved it. It was great. I'd say this is a two for sure. Like, it's
Yeah.
they just break it down into common sense. Like, hey, every company has values
Yeah.
because they talk about it. The executives and founders have values that they want this company to kind of adhere to. So just align some social activism with your values. And you don't have to be, at one point in the article, they talked about like, you don't have to be like global in what you're yelling and doing. Like,
Yeah.
focus it on the immediate community with which you're operating in. And it's like no one's going to say it's political to go to the local food bank and help hand out lunches and food or donate and but that's what other people are saying with some of this other stuff. It's like that's becoming politicized, which is ridiculous. And like
Yeah.
we're we're falling away from some of that stuff that we're supposed to do as organizations, which is also to better the communities with which we operate in. Like that was part of the social contract in the early days, even during the Industrial Revolution. Like most companies had, food programs or they gave to local charities and they did a lot of work with, trying to make the communities better places. They often had days where the whole company would go out and go do a project or do something. Um, and like, when did that become politicized? Why do we have to do that? And it just all
Yeah.
aligned to their values. And so I think people need to kind of get back to like what it means to be an organization,
Yeah.
which is just, it's not about just pulling whatever you can out of your employees, the community, the resources, the planet Earth. It's about part of it is giving back. And it's just that's this long-term good business. Because if you don't
Yeah.
give back, you won't be able to hire anymore. Like there are some fulfillment centers that Amazon has in some of the cities that they operate in, where they're literally having to bus employees in from other cities because they've gone through every employable person in that city, and they no longer want to work for that fulfillment center because they're treated so poorly.
Yeah.
Like that's not a sustainable business model.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's exactly the word that was in my head was sustainable because this is really what he's talking about is take, the values that your business has, the service or, product that you're providing and the community that you're in and just find a way to be aligned about that and like work with the community, work with those values. And the quote that was in there was the narrative that corporations were once apolitical and have suddenly become woke simply does not reflect history or reality, right? Like it hasn't been that way. So it's interesting that, there's kind of this push to like, oh, retreat to a way that actually was never the way businesses were operating to begin with. So yeah, I think it shouldn't be like, again, it shouldn't be controversial to align your business's values, product, service, and community. Like, no, it shouldn't be.
It's good business. Like like it's like every time we buy a product, we are aligning with our values. Like I
Yeah.
shop at Patagonia because their products are sustainable, they're made really well, and I like what they do. And Patagonia leans into that very hard. I'm not going to go into Truth Social because those values don't align with my values, but it aligns with a lot of other people's values, and like that's a business model.
Yeah.
Like no harm, no foul there, really. But it's like I think it's just silly that we can't run our business as a value aligned organization that also does some work in the community.
Yeah.
Obviously, if those values harm other people, that's a problem.
Yes. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes. That's what I have for us today. I hope that that was a little bit of a palate cleanser from the early, you got like if you have an episode that's just all boots, it's a little bit rough. You gotta slide a toot in there at least.
Something at the end, a little glimmer of hope, something nice.
Noah, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Stacey. That was awesome.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Toot or Boot. You can keep in touch with me, Stacey, on LinkedIn, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at tootorboot.com. And if you're enjoying Toot or Boot, we'd appreciate your positive review on your favorite podcast platform.